And then Bobby is here. She's the Director of Children's Initiatives from the United Way, Success by Six, and she'll introduce Teddy.
Yeah, well, I just want to thank you all for coming and thank Debbie. So Success by Six is a community-wide collaboration to make sure that kids are ready to learn by the time they hit the kindergarten doors. And we do a lot of different things in the community, but anytime we want to impact parents, Parents as Teachers is an awesome partner for us and just a great advocate for families and young people. So thank you for everything. I'm going to go ahead and pass it right on to Teddi because I've just got a lot to talk about. Dr. Deka is a professor at Missouri Western. She's been kind enough to present these seminars for us for years as a volunteer, so we really appreciate that. Years. My age is a little bit big. And she has, her PhD is in psychology with an emphasis on age span. Developmental psychology, thank you. She's smarter than I could possibly hope to be. But she also has kids that she's raised or is raising, so she can also put this book knowledge to real life experience. So anyway, I will pass it over to Dr. Deka. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I sure appreciate it. I've been a professor at Missouri Western now. I'm on my 19th year here, and I'm responsible for teaching most of the education and nursing majors and psych majors, child development, adolescent lifespan development, and all those kinds of things. And I dabble in some research on socialization, emotional intelligence, particularly in adolescent years. So I'm happy to be here, and I do have two kids of my own, and they're teenagers. Well, they're kind of, my daughter just turned 12, and my son's 13 going 14. I timed it all wrong. You know why? Girls go through puberty about 2 years before boys. That means they're both going through it now. And it's really interesting in the Deka household. So a lot of tolerance, a lot of, or intolerance, but we have a lot of things going on. Although my specialty area is adolescence, I have to say that kids have a way of putting us off kilter. Even if we know everything, they have a way of saying, well, you don't know everything, I'm going to throw this at you. So I've been there. I know most of you are probably you're caring for children, but some of you are daycare providers, some of you are foster parents. And we all get a kick in the fanny by these kids, that's for sure, right? We might know everything, but they'll tell us we don't know everything. So I'm happy you're here because we want to keep learning about how we can make ourselves better. I have to constantly learn to make myself better, and I hope you all continue to do that because, you might get one kid, everything works for this kid, but if you get the next one, forget about it. All bets are off. So I know you have my handout. I want to inspire you to start thinking about your kids. I said this is your brain on electronics. We're all exposed to electronics. And it's not just electronics, it's media. And I want you to start to think back about electronics and about me and what we're doing. It's true that at no other time in history have we needed these devices. And I'm going to refer my notes because I don't want to leave anything out. But just in the last 5 years, we've really added smartphones onto the list of things that are essential in 3 areas of our lives: our work, our education, and our leisure time. When the power goes off, well, the other day, this is true, the internet went down at Missouri Western. The internet went down at Missouri Western. And it was all down the whole day. And about noon, you saw professors flocking away. They're leaving the university because they can't do their work. And I thought about that. We are so dependent now on the technology that we literally are paralyzed. And I've seen the power go off before, and I've seen students walking across campus, and the power will be off, and they'll stand there like this. What are you doing? I don't know what to do. Walk, It's just like a stunned time. But we have so many things that we consider essential. So it's no surprise that that our children will need these devices to work. That's a given. You know, the kids that you have today that are children, when they get older, they're going to be dependent on a lot more than we are right now. They're going to be, who knows? You know, who knows what it's going to be, but, you know, I'm a child of I was born in the 60s, I was a child in the 70s, I was a teen in the 80s. I would have never imagined that we could have computers like we do. I didn't have a computer. I saw my first computer when I was 16, I saw it, and it couldn't do very much, you know. So, but you know, these technologies, they're growing up with it. It's very difficult to live without them. So, can you imagine a world where we didn't have the things we have, like our cell phones, our computers, or tablets? I mean, it would be almost impossible. Parents, you can picture it. Grandparents can picture it, because we've lived through a time we didn't have all this stuff, okay? And we remember parts of it very fondly. We remember going out in the neighborhood and having to knock on somebody's door to see if they were home. And their parents, you know, parents would drop in on other parents. And they always had something. You know, something to put food out or something. We didn't even have answering machines, okay? So you had to drop in. But I have on the list, what do you think the big invention there in the 1980s was that people started using that?
The personal computer.
The PC. The PC. That's when it really came out in the 80s. The personal computer. You could take it home. It wasn't the size of a house. How about the 90s? What is it? Cell phone, that's right. Cell phone. Wasn't a very good cell phone. What did you say? Cell phone. And the laptop, too. That's another thing that was really coming out. How about the 2000s, the aughts? We saw like the MP3 players, right? Yeah. I get iPads and iPods confused. It's an i something. And we saw smartphones come out. Smartphone, you can hold a computer in your hand. Now we've got the 2010s. We've got tablets, right? The portable computers, little mini computers. You know, all these things are things that we're going to have. We first learn to use it. We learn to tolerate it, then we learn to use it, then we can't live without it. The problem with kids, and you have to imagine this, we tend to lose sight of this. You're born into a world that already exists. Okay? You can think of a baby. The baby's in the world. It's not built like, oh, we're going to create a world around this baby. The baby's in the world. Pre-existing culture, pre-existing technology. They have to adapt to their world adequately. If they don't, they're not going to make it. No company's going to hire a kid that can't use a computer. You know, and just assume they're going to know how to do this, do that, all this stuff. They have to adapt to the new technology. They have to, but at the same time, they have to master the technology that their parents are still saying that they have to know. One of mine is cursive. Like, you must know cursive. My kids know cursive. They can write cursive. But I'm a professor at college. One of my students actually told me he couldn't read my writing because he couldn't read cursive. Like, what? I mean, we really don't need cursive. It's a courtesy, right? To be able to write cursive, you're supposed to have a nice style to your hand. And another one that gets me is the addition, being able to find a percentage. I had a test that was worth 50 points. And one of my students says, she got a 40 out of 50. She goes, what percent is that? And I said, well, you take 40 and multiply it times 2. It's out of 50, then it'll give you 100% and you figure it out. She took out her phone to multiply 40 times 2. Oh no. You know. So that was a sad moment for me. But, so we expect them to master we expect them to think the way we think, you know. I expect my kids to know math in their head. That's not necessarily their priority. I'm sorry?
Time telling.
Oh yeah, using clock face is another thing that they laugh on.
Yep.
you know, there was an Alzheimer's, I'll tell you this, it's kind of funny, on an Alzheimer's test, we have these tests to kind of indicate if somebody has Alzheimer's. And one of the tests is to draw a clock, they have a circle, and you have to draw like 10 till 2, put the hands in the right way. And there was one patient that was pre-Alzheimer's, and instead of drawing hands, they wrote the time, like digitally. It's like, I'm not doing your test, this is what I'm doing, so that was kind of funny. I mean, did it on purpose, because they obviously knew how to draw hands, you know. So, why are we concerned about kids? You know, I did a lot of thinking about this, and I came up with a couple things, the reasons why we're concerned. And, you know, I want you to write this down, though. What would happen if you lost all electric power for a day? I want you to think about that, because you're likely to say, I'd be okay. But if you ask that to your child might freak out.
What can I do?
I'm bored.
We live out in the country, and a lot of times when the weather
Right.
or electricity goes out, and it's like, what are we supposed to do? I said, go get a book.
Get a book, play a game,
Yeah.
run around, do something, you know. And I think that's one lesson we're going to talk about is how to be bored, you know. One of the things we're really concerned about is just that kids spend a lot of time on their gadgets. So one of the things that parents worry about is how much time they're spending on their gadgets. Aside from what they're doing with them, that's another issue, but of course they can use them for a lot of things. But we worry about what they're using them for. Now, if you think of any research that's done on media usage, this chart that I have here, what they consider about media usage isn't just tablets and cell phones. It's reading. Reading is a media. You know, you're reading a book, magazine, newspaper, listening to music on the radio. That's considered media consumption, okay? So when you look at these charts and you say, oh my gosh, total media exposure for 11 to 14-year-olds is 11 hours and 53 minutes on average. Okay? It's all media exposure. Now, I will tell you that's TV as well. What is the most popular consumption of media? Does anybody know? That's right, it's the TV.
Yeah.
It's still the TV. Now, they're not reading and all of that has gone significantly down, very low. Okay, so it's contributing very little to this. The most is TV and listening. They listen to music a lot and play video games on tablets, computers, etc., and their phones. So their media exposure and their media use is pretty high. The average 8 to 10-year-old total media use when they're actually using media is over 5 hours. And I know we're here to talk about younger children even than that. It's estimated that kids in the 2-year-old range or so, they're using about 2 hours of media, exposed to it and using it in some way, shape, or form. Okay? So the most time-consuming media is definitely tweens. And a tween is a person that's not a child and not a teenager or a young teenager, like my kids. They call them tweens. All right? They have a lot of exposure, and marketing companies know this. You know, my kid likes to watch this Japanese anime, and he thinks it's innocent. I said, you gotta realize what the message they're trying to send to you is. It's not innocent. None of this stuff is innocent, you know. They have to be aware consumers, just like when you watch TV and you're watching a commercial. What's in the commercial? What are they exposing you to? They are very influential, okay? So we worry about time. But the second worry we have is what they do, right? What they do. So that's the second worry, is the doing. So what are they doing? Okay? Now, I don't have anything under what they do because I can't find anything that breaks down what they do. It's really interesting. It's a very hard thing to find. But I know that from your experience, you know, if you're watching TV, you know what they're watching TV. But a lot of kids, they get on their things and they're watching videos or they're playing games. Play lots of games. Okay, and the games require them to do certain things. And I've been watching parents a lot lately too. Matter of fact, I was at Sakura Japanese restaurant. just a few days ago for my daughter's birthday party. And we never have media hour at the table or anything, we don't do that. But there were 3 very nice people sitting at our table, all women meeting up with one another, and they were on their phones the whole time. They were like my age, they were on their phone talking to each other, and they're looking at, they're scrolling through things and doing all this stuff, and I was amazed, you know, they had to be on them. So I don't know what they were doing. I don't think they were playing games, huh?
Probably Facebooking.
I'm not sure. I don't want people to know where I am. You know what I mean? I hide. I'm like, don't find me, please. But we don't know what they do necessarily. But what we realize that it takes away from other things that we want them to do. Okay? And there are some things that, there are a couple things that media is good for, and there's a couple things that it's bad for. The issues that I have on this chart here, time spent with media, what kids do on media, interactive media, these are real concerns, okay? Interactive media, you say, what? You didn't list that as a concern. I'm going to explain to you what that is. But let's look at the time spent. The positives, you know, parents use a lot of this because it keeps their kids busy. You're on a car trip, you give them something, they're happy. You're doing work at home, you can watch TV. You're not going to bother me. Yeah, everybody's happy. It's something that keeps them busy. And our parents did this even in the 70s. Cartoon Saturday, right? If we watched a cartoon, mom was doing her thing. But it keeps people busy. You know, it's available technology that keeps them busy. The negatives, though, especially with young children, the younger they get, the worse this problem is in terms of letting them have these gadgets. They don't have a lot of play. You know, you're taking away their playtime. And you might say, what's this playtime? Well, their number one socializer is their parents or caregivers. You know, if you run a daycare, you're a socializer for them, as well as the other children. When you put, now you know this, when you put these kids in a room and they're playing with one another, if you turn the TV on, what happens? Right, they stop playing with each other. And they start playing with the TV, like just staring at it. It's a passive activity. So the time spent with media for young children, their number one consumption is TV as well. And if you are in a daycare situation, then you need to fix lunch. You know, that's a time when you might turn on the TV. You know, that might not be a bad idea for a half hour. You're going to give kids something. But if it's 2 hours or 3 hours a day, if that's the main thing, then you're taking away the play. And play does things for kids that we don't think about. And not having media on, they need to develop their language skills. And human beings get their language skills from other people. They don't get it from anywhere else. If you drop a kid off in China and they hear Chinese, they speak Chinese. All of our accents and the sounds we can make are specific to your first year of life. You know, have you ever taken a foreign language? I took French, you know, those French people, they're like that sound. I can't make that sound. I learned how to speak French when I was in 7th grade. Too late. I already got rid of it, but I knew how to do it when I was a year old. You know, we learn language from other people. That's how we learn to communicate, but we also learn how to interact with other people. You know, if a kid takes a toy from another kid, and the kid's like, give it back to me, and they struggle, they're learning, well, this is not good, we can't do this anymore. You know, eventually a parent comes over, somebody says, oh, you can't do that. And they learn they're not supposed to do that. So they learn how to get along with other people. So the time spent with the media, positives, keeps them occupied. Negatives, they don't learn all the stuff they're supposed to be learning. What kids do on media, the positives, there are some positive aspects of media. You know, there's been research out there saying, well, what are they learning from, you know, my generation, Sesame Street was new. Ooh, Sesame Street. Everybody loves Sesame Street, Big Bird, and Elmo and Oscar the Grouch were teaching us about our letters. I didn't particularly like Sesame Street, by the way. I preferred, what was that one with Mr. Green Jeans and
Captain
Kangaroo?
Yeah.
Captain Kangaroo. I loved that show with the moose and the bunny and that town. What was that town? Was it Uptown Clown? It was something clown. I liked him a lot, and that's the only clown I ever liked in my life, by the way. But those shows were something, was it Clear? No, Clarabelle was
Howdy Doody.
Howdy Doody, that's right. So we do learn some stuff from, if we say that, you know, people say that media, they don't want to admit that media can be bad for kids. It's like, oh, our kids don't learn negative stuff from media. I said, well, do they learn anything positive from media? They said, yes. So if you say that, yes, they can learn positive things from media, you must admit that they can learn bad things from media. If they, that means just they can learn, okay? They can learn. And what kids do when they learn, if they see something, this is another thing I know you know, but we don't always think about what we know already. A kid sees something. They see you do something, okay? And they don't do anything. Like this happened to me with my nephew. He heard me swear. I said something. I think I said like S word, you know? I said it. I'm like, whoops. You know, I had a moment of, uh-oh. And it was maybe a day later, and he said it. And my sister's like, where did that come from? I'm like, I don't know. You know, but they save it up. You know, we don't know when it's going to come out. So kids do learn things. And sometimes it comes out in other places. But kids can learn language skills. They can earn some interaction. You know, if they interact with the media and have to select things, they can learn some stuff, and it's positive reinforcement for them. However, they can also learn how to gameplay too much, you know, maybe for media, and watch inappropriate things. We don't monitor them. When you have your kid has a handheld, it's really hard to monitor them. You can't see what they're doing. They're on the TV, you're like, what are you doing? What are you watching? You can see it. They have that little thing. It's like, and they're crafty. When they get older, they know. Turn it off. They're better than we are at it, we have to admit it. But interactive media is another thing I want to bring up. You know, we have passive media and interactive media. TV's passive media. You sit there and watch it. It has a cathartic effect on most people. You relax. But interactive media is different. It requires the kid to do something. Press buttons, interact with it somehow, okay? Gameplay mostly. So we tend to think that it engages the brain. It engages the brain, so because you're interacting with it. And that's, some parents feel that's true. And parents don't limit this interactive media as much as they do passive media. Parents say, oh, you can't watch TV too much. You get an hour, that's it. But the interactive media, we're like, oh, ignore it. And the problem with this interactive media, we're seeing disorders from it. We're seeing disordered conditions from it. Primarily hyperarousal, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, sleep disturbances, and even addiction. Addiction, lighting up the same places, is a drug, an illegal drug that you can take. So we're seeing some teenagers that are addicted to gameplay, right? I mean, I hate games. I don't have time to play games. But in their mindset, that's everything. That is everything. So we have things that are happening, and we have reasons for allowing things to happen, but it's causing problems. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. Now, think about it. We live in a world, we're placed into it. We have technology, we have to adapt to it. These kids are going to have to know how to use it when they get older. Their brains are changing. We're programming them to be different, all right, through the media use. But what we want to do is we want to encourage them to know how to use it and to use it wisely, and also to be able to retain the skills that we think are important to be social human beings. So they have to know everything. And we have to encourage it because we have temptation. You know, we have temptation to fall to the media as well. You know, get home from a long day, I want to sit in front of the TV. I want to deal with you. You know, we have this kind of mentality. But we have to make ourselves not do that. Because these children have things to learn. Okay, so here I have brains are changing. And this is what my talk's really about. I know I waited a long time to get to it. Ask questions if you want as we go. One, it's not a brain area. These are in general. They're not like specific brain areas. They're like cognitive areas. But one is attention and memory. And there is a misconception that multitasking makes you smarter. Most of the people in this room think that multitasking makes you better and smarter and faster. I'll give you an instance. Studying while listening to music. That's a good one. It doesn't make you better. It makes you worse. From every single area we have, if you engage in more than one thing at a time, it makes you worse. You think it makes you better, but it doesn't. You pay the price later on. And you're going to pay the price with your memory. Okay? Your memory is going to get worse. As you age, your memory gets worse anyway. It does. When you get a little bit older, like I'm at that age now, I'm a unitasker. I do one thing at a time. I must. Okay? What happens if I get distracted is I do nothing well. I do it, but I don't do it well. It's a very hard message for younger people to absorb. They want to listen to music and study. They want to watch videos and study. They want to watch videos at the same time they're listening to music. They want to watch the TV while they're doing something else. No problem. It's not true. Multitasking causes problems. Okay? You have to learn how to pay attention to what you're doing. And it constantly pulls your attention away. Think of your attention as a cup that's full. Okay? You got a filled cup. Those are your cognitive resources in that cup. That's all you've got. So let's say you're doing, let's say you're in college and you're doing your, I don't know, your calculus homework. Okay? And it should take 3/4 of your resources. But then you're listening to music at the same time, which takes half your resources. And it's more interesting. So you're taking 1/4 away from the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. The media is more interesting. The math's not more interesting. So what's going to win? It's going to be the other thing. It's going to be the music. They're more interesting. You know about the Mozart effect, don't you? You ever heard the Mozart effect? Playing music makes kids smarter. Did you know that study was never done on kids? It was done on college students. And it was never replicated. It was never repeated. So,
What's that called?
the Mozart effect.
Oh.
That was done with college students. It wasn't done on babies. So, it's an impossible experiment. Play music for a baby or an unborn child, okay? Play classical music. How do you prove that they're smarter when they're 10? How do you prove it? You can't. Because it could have been anything. The parent could have spent more time with the kid. The kid could have been genetically better off. The kid could have, their parents could have more money. They could have had a better school. You don't know. It could be anything. So it's an impossible setup. Little children get very distracted by sights and sounds. Now, I challenge you to watch media designed for young kids. One of the ones that was designed specifically for young kids was Barney. Barney. And the Teletubbies. Okay, they were designed with kids in mind. Little kids, young kids, like two-year-olds, 3-year-olds, you know. The thing about Barney is he's very salient. He's big and he's bright. And he's doing all these corny things. The Teletubbies repeated themselves over and over again. They'd take the same story and they'd go through it like 3 or 4 times. Little kids love that. They love bright, they love loud, they love salient, they love repetition. So that was a very attractive show for these little kids. But we didn't much like it because of all those things. It was annoying. But if you think about what we're exposing kids to today, these tablets, these phones, everything, it's very vivid, it's very bright, it's very loud. It's all these things that are like, woo, 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 and they love it. They love it. They get distracted by sights and sounds. So your intention might be to have something on media that's going to teach them something, but if it's too bright, too loud, all these things, and that's off the topic of the concentration, they're going to get distracted. Okay? And they have problems with that. Social skills is another place we find problems with our change in development. I have myths, it's okay to replace human interaction with interactive media. No, 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 never. Little kids especially, you know infants need human interaction. You would never put your infant with a computer. and say, computer, take care of my baby, right? But we're doing that with our 1-year-olds, our 2-year-olds, our 3-year-olds, or first. Take care of my baby for me. They can't go without that interaction. They need it. They need to be read to. They need to be talked to. They need to be interacted with. They need other kids to play with them. They will have problems, okay?
I have a problem with all those VTech toys, because that's, you can see the numbers, and they've got all for those little bitty kids, instead of reading a book that has that same interaction.
There's a lot of things that are free or low cost and available for free to most people. And that's why I like to parent, you know, when parents as teachers, they came into my house, I let them go ahead and show me what to do. They always made things out of things I had. A toilet paper roll, whatever it might be. You don't need anything fancy. You know, you can do a lot of stuff with what's available. You know, but that's part of our problem in our society. We're always in one-upmanship. And the kids start to get that, oh, he has this, I want it. And it's really hard as a parent to say, too bad, you don't get it. You know, my son, he has a cell phone. We got him a cell phone when he turned 13, because we don't have a landline. And he can stay home by himself, you know. And I took his phone away. He goes, your rule is that if I'm home by myself, I have to have my phone. I said, that's true. He goes, so you have to give my phone back. I said, no, I don't. I said, A, you can either go with me, or B, if you get in trouble, go to the neighbor's house. I said, I'm sure they have a phone. I said, we live without phones. I'm sure you can manage and figure it out. You know, you're so swift. So he didn't get his phone back, but he was like, he told me, it's my rule, right? That was my rule, it's true. I lied, I don't know. But I said, too bad. But sensory motor activities, building, manipulation, all those kinds of things, they're taken away by zone pressing. They gotta be active too. Sensory motor means to sense and to move. So like if a kid sees something and grabs it like this, that's a coordination sensory motor. They need to do those things. They need to reach, grab, use their senses. Having something so close isn't that good. Okay? And I might add right here too, in terms of social skills, they need to learn how to self-regulate. If you're always giving them something when they're badly behaved or anything, they're not learning how to deal with the situation. Okay, I was talking with Bobby just a little bit ago about church. You know, I think church is a really good place to teach kids how to self-regulate. Because it's an hour long and they have to behave. The parents get really mad at them if they don't, you know? But how do you sit through something that maybe you're not particularly interested in and live through it? You have to learn how to cope. We all know how to do this. You've been in a meeting where you're just like bored to death. I was at a meeting like that. I was bored to death. The topic was horrible. I had to sit there and act like I was paying attention. We've all been there. How do you cope? You pull out your electronics. I've seen grown-ups do this now. I've seen people do it in faculty senate meetings. It's like, It's very unprofessional, right? Very unprofessional. So that's not something we want to teach our kids. We want to teach them how to cope with disinterest or boredom. How do you do it? How do you manage? In our church, I was teaching school religion, and there's kids that we don't go to church because we're bored. And I said, okay, let's think about this. I said, what could you do in church if you're bored? We have all these beautiful murals. And I said, next time you're in church, I said, I want you to tell me about one of the murals in the church. Of course, they were all looking at them then. They had to find out about it. I mean, there are all these beautiful pictures, all these beautiful sculptures, all this stuff. And I said, if you get bored and you can't listen to the message, I said, look at something. Find something interesting about it. And they did. So they learned a little bit about self-regulation, how to regulate. In the cars, you know, we tend to have these video that there's kids always have to have the video. I've never put a video in my car, ever. My kids have gone on like 14, 15-hour drives doing nothing. They're fine. Whatever. They play games, they read, you know, they look out and look at things, interesting stuff. You know, those kinds of things are things that are taught, though. Sleep. Screen time is disturbing sleep. This is true with us too, grown-ups. You know, new research is coming out now about the tablets and reading from tablets. I have a Kindle Fire. I do. I have to turn it way, way down to the lowest setting so it doesn't irritate me and keep me awake. But it's still, you know, the new research is coming out about books and how important they are to hold them and do all this stuff. It's really quite interesting. So I'm curious to see what it does that. But screen time does seem to affect sleep patterns, especially for kids. If they're playing games, we arouse them. Arousal, it doesn't matter what the source is. Arousal in your body is the same. You ever almost get in a car accident? You almost got in a car accident? And you're sitting there and all of a sudden you start to go like this. And it's like, wait a minute, why am I shaking? I didn't get in the car accident. Okay? That's your adrenaline. That's your norepinephrine starting up. Your brain is faster than your hormones. Okay? So let's say you're playing a video game and you have to make all these quick moves, right? Your brain makes all the quick moves. And then the game might be over, but your adrenaline is just starting up. Heartbeat starts faster, all these things that arouses these kids. So when it's time for them to go to bed, it doesn't really work. But genetically, we're programmed. When we're scared, if you almost get in the car accident, you're preparing yourself to fight or flee. That's why the adrenaline starts. So let's say I'm driving a car, and I get in a car accident, right? My brain registers I got in a car accident, it alerts the system. And that adrenaline is going to permit me to get out of that car if I can and get away. Or deal with any kind of danger that comes my way. That's all it's for. It's a little slower, but its effects last longer. And that's why it's slower, okay? Because it goes out throughout your body. It prevents you from bleeding until you get to the hospital. You get about 20 minutes. You get cut, you get about 20 minutes before you start really bleeding. Did you ever watch that show? What was that, Cops? The guys get in a fight, you don't see any blood, but the minute they sit on the curb, all of a sudden there's blood everywhere. That's why their adrenaline stops. They start to bleed everywhere. It's amazing. But sleep makes it difficult. Mood, we think media does not affect mood. We're learning that kids get tired from media. We're learning that they have low impulse control, which affects their mood. You know, low impulse control is because they can't wait. We want them to wait. To get to the store, they can't wait to get out of the store. They can't sit in the car. They can't do anything. So you have to learn how to wait. But that's going to affect their mood. What happens when you want something really bad and you can't wait? Grumpy, anxious, all these negative things. You don't think you're happy, right? You're not happy, right? There's no positive emotion associated with what, you know, needing something you can't get. They think they need everything. You ever feel like a cruise director? Like they expect you to direct their entertainment for the whole day? I mean, that's the point they're getting at because they're constantly stimulated. I want to spend a minute talking about electronic screen syndrome and arousal addiction. Actually, one of the books that I have listed in here, if you're interested, under resources, it's the Dunlecky one. It's a new book. It's called Reset Your Child's Brain, a 4-week plan to end meltdowns, raise grades, boost social skills, by reversing the effects of electronic screen time. It's a pretty interesting book. This describes one of my kids. Meltdowns, grades, everything, but he hardly ever has media exposure. He just has attention problems. You know, a lot of it sounds like attention problems, but kids with attention difficulties are attracted to media, okay? But if you're overexposing your kids to media, you think this might be a book for you. But these pictures that I have on the next page are ones that go along with electronic screen syndrome and arousal addiction. So if we look at the top one with all these things going cutting around the part, so if you think about your fight or flight response, that's when your adrenaline kicks in, okay? What makes that happen? Well, if you have a lot of sensory stimulation, bright sounds, lights, etc., that's something that can cause fight or flight, okay? Psychological engagement. This is mental engagement with games primarily, but this mental engagement is really weird. And we have a drive to win. You know, we have a drive to want to beat the others. And games are like that, right? They're always centered on something. Beat the clock, beat the competitor, beat somebody, right? And win. That makes us rebels, okay? The media disrupts our body clock, especially serotonin, the circadian rhythm and the melatonin, excuse me. So you have bright lights. Lights affect your melatonin. We've done studies about that. You know, if you're exposed to light, it increases the melatonin and it makes it decreases the melatonin. You need melatonin to go to sleep. You need an increase of it. So when the lights go down, like the sun goes down, our melatonin increases. We've made it so the sun doesn't go down. You know, many of you work night shift, ever? Third shift? Nobody's ever worked third shift?
I am.
Okay. You never, ever, you think you got it under control, but it never quite works, right? And you'll see people that work night shifts sometimes wear really dark glasses when they get off and run home and go in a dark room. Because if you can keep it dark, your chance of going to sleep are a lot better, right? But if it's light out, it's like, oh no, I'm never going to get to sleep. It's really tough. But so you know that the sun has a lot to do with you staying awake, right? Okay. Okay, so then I have a reward and addiction pathways. We use media for rewards. You do this? If you're good, I'll let you play this. If you're bad, I'll take it away. We all do it. You've got to take away something the kid wants, right? The problem is these are becoming our primary reward centers, or reward things. We've got to change that. We really do. And I don't know the answer to that necessarily, other than to limit the media usage period. Limit it down to something acceptable, but try our best not to say, well, if you do this, I'll let you play an extra hour. That's something we shouldn't be doing. But the reward centers, you have reward centers in your brain, okay? Primarily, we have two neurotransmitters that make us feel really good. One's dopamine and one is serotonin. If you're depressed, you're not missing, you're lacking them, okay? Dopamine and serotonin. Antidepressants help with dopamine and serotonin, okay? People crave dopamine and serotonin. We want them. We want our brains to make us feel good. People take certain drugs, it increases dopamine and serotonin. Methamphetamine gives you a huge boost of serotonin. The problem is it damages your serotonin receptors, okay? So when you stop taking it, you could be hooked. You might not make enough serotonin. But dopamine is something that we want. And when kids play games and they do this victory, you know, they win, that's a reward center. That's like a drug addiction. The same things are happening in the brain, and they crave it. And we have kids that are addicted. The vividness of the images we have increase arousal. It's more real. Did you remember the game Pong? Pong? What is it? Pong?
Pong.
Pong?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have this Cleveland accent, it's horrible. But Pong. Do you remember? Does anybody remember that? That was our first video game. You had this little thing, you had the ball, and the thing, back and forth.
I think
Pong.
My Wisconsin accent's not really helping either.
That's a lot less vivid than what's today, right? Now, have you ever seen any of these video games today? This looks like you're running through the jungle. Or this Grand Theft Auto, all this stuff. So, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this? Very vivid. But the kid, we think, oh, it's a game. But your brain doesn't necessarily think it's a game. Okay? You ever go to the movie and get scared? You know it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
You're in there, you know it's a movie, you get scared. Your brain does it to you. You have no choice. Right, but you have no choice. You know what's going to happen. You know you go to a horror movie, you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to get scared. And you bet on it. You want to get that thrill, but you still know it's going to be unreal, but you still do it. It's the same with video games. Your brain doesn't distinguish if what's fake. Unless it's Pong. We knew. Your brain doesn't have a problem with that. But arousal is all the same. That increase adrenaline. Media multitasking. Kids today are multitasking in their media. You do it too. You just don't want to admit it. and you listen to your music, and you look at through your Facebook. That's multimedia. Or you're watching TV and you're doing something like that. That's multimedia. But you know what happens, right? Sometimes I'm on my computer. I'm on my computer and the TV's on, I'm watching TV. I'm on my computer and I'm doing something. And I have no idea what happened on the TV show. No idea. Clueless. But it still went in my brain somewhere. I heard it. Okay? So, electromagnetic radiation is on here, but there's still a question mark about the EMT, the emitting EMTs coming off. So that's heightened arousal, fight or flight. What this basically does, I have it down below here, is stress. It causes your body stress when you're in arousal a lot. It increases your cortisol, it makes you chubby, without even if you have a good diet, it can make you chubby. It can make you have mood problems. It can create inflammation. You might say, yeah, I'm 60, maybe I get some inflammation. What if you were 10 and got inflammation? Could that happen? Yeah, we see these kids getting sorts of things that some of it has to do with them being obese. But we see kids with fatty livers and having heart problems. Okay? So these things are really interesting to look at. You can think about all these different parts of causing stress. And disturbed sleep, it says hypervigilance, wired and tired. You don't think it's good, you're wired and you're tired. You're overtired because you can't sleep. So what are we going to do? I gave you some recommendations from the literature. When kids are less than 2 years old, they're not learning anything from the media. It's your framework. So try to limit it severely if you can, because they need interaction at that time more than ever. Try to find a different reward system besides creating more interaction with you. And that's something that's hard for us to do. But, right, whatever kid you're working with, you might think of the things that the child likes and write them down and say, okay, other than media stuff, and use those for rewards. Because each kid's a little bit different with that. Kids like crafts a lot. They like doing things with their hands, so that might be something. I take the TV and computer out of the bedroom. Like 68% of kids have their TVs in their bedroom. And their computers. That's actually a thing you shouldn't do. I know we don't want to take it away, but they shouldn't be in there.
And they start it very young.
Yeah, have the media in public place. My kids have never had TVs in their rooms, and they've never had computers. They don't. And they never have. Okay? It's all public. And we have computers, we have TVs, but it's only in public rooms. And
Mine too, but they love going to hotels because you can sit like lay in bed and watch TV.
Yeah.
It's a novelty.
Yeah, it's a novelty though, but that's the thing, it's special, okay? Have them use handhelds in public space in the house. My daughter really likes to go in her room and lay in her bed and try to get away with using a tablet. And I'm like, nope. And they have to ask permission every time they're gonna use something. That's something I do too. If they wanna get on something, they have to ask permission and tell them what they're gonna do. I know it sounds kind of wicked, but I know how long they're on it. If they have to get permission, then I know. So, meal times and outings without devices. Meal times, I can't figure it out. We have meals together all the time. We've never had media. But more and more that I'm going to restaurants, I see whole families sitting down and all they're doing is on their media. And talking with each other. And that's sad. It's like, why bother going out? Really try not to put it away. I took a bunch of undergrad students to Chicago recently. That was the rule. I said, they all had their phones out. I said, you gotta put, there's gonna be no phones at the table. And at first they're like, you can see them, they're all worried. I said, put them away. They didn't, they started talking to each other. And we were talking, having a good time. After the dinner, one of them said, boy, that was fun. And I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to talk. Proof for kids apps. They put an app on their gadget, look at the app, play with the app, talk to your kid about what it's doing, what the app is, but that'll give you a chance to see if the app's okay. Now, these companies that have these apps, they're not innocent. They're not in it for, oh, I think I'm just gonna invent a free app for your kid, and it's my gift to you. It's not a gift. You have to think of it as somebody trying to sell you something, okay? Teach children how to self-regulate. Let them be bored. Let them figure out what to do when they're bored. Okay? Give them a few suggestions and then leave them alone.
We'll go to bed and sleep.
Well, you know what? That's self-regulation. It's more cathartic, but provide play and sport activities. You know, get them outside, get them run around, and spend time with them. If you have to spend time with the kids. There's no getting around it. Well, there is getting around it, but you're going to have a bad process. You're going to have somebody who doesn't know how to socialize. So, I also gave you an article because this article, it's from a more professional journal, but it's short. And they really talk about how much we don't know yet. And I think it's a good article. It came out in 2015. So, it was accepted for publication in 2014. And a lot of the studies that we're looking at now were actually from 2009 and 2010 data. The Kaiser Foundation did a huge study on media consumption, but they measured consumption in 2009. We've changed a whole lot in the last 5 years. So this first diagram that I gave you, that's 2009 data, and I marked it here, 2009 data, because the study came out in 2010. So it's a lot higher than that. They thought it was going to peak, and they were wrong. So there you go. Did you have any questions for me? I'm sorry, it's kind of long-winded. Go ahead.
For infants, should you avoid toys that have a lot of noise and lights and everything?
No, I think that if your goal is to have them orient toward the toy, I don't think it's necessarily bad. Because that's what they're attracted to, is when they turn toward it and kind of provides like a rudimentary reinforcement. You know, I think that's okay.
What is, I mean, so what is a time that like a 13-year-old should be on like that? Between like PlayStation, cell phones, TV? I mean, even though they play sports and, you know, do all that, what is like, because me and my husband are always like, we feel like we want to give them a little bit of time, but not too much time.
Well, the first question is like, okay, so you have gaming, which is active. You have TV, which is passive. And then you have maybe their usage that they have to do for school. So are we talking about any usage for school?
Well, he has a Chromebook now for middle school, he's just now in middle school, and he says it's for school, but a lot of times he's in there and he's watching like Vine or...
Well, you know what, my son did the same thing, he took his Chromebook home, and all he was doing was playing games on it.
Yep.
So he told me he needed it for school. So I don't know where your son goes to school, where your child goes. Truman, mine goes to Spring Garden. So I went into Spring Garden and I talked with the principal. I said, does my son need this for schoolwork? She says, no. And I said, can I make it so he can't sign it home? She said, sure. You can't take it home. I told him, I said, it's not a gaming device, it's a learning device. And I think it's really important with those Chromebooks. So the first thing, I would do that if I were you. If he doesn't need to take it home, make it so that they can't. Because you want them, when they get that at school, that they associate that with school.
Right, and not playing.
And not playing, okay? So that's number one. And I try to limit my own to an hour.
Well, it seems like you do one, and then when you get done with one, then it's like when you go to the phone. And then it's like, it just seems like there's so much, and then when we turn them off, it's like, then friends are calling, get online, do this, you know, like, I feel like I'm the only one that's like, and then I'm the
You might be the only mom.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
the
like,
problem,
it's time to get
though.
off.
There are a lot of parents who don't care. Now, we're not talking about them, though, and their kids. We're talking about you and your
Right.
kids. What do you want them to be like,
Right.
you know? So
I just
you
didn't know if
can't.
I'm being too, you know what I mean, like too strict or not.
Well,
like,
I would think that it would be appropriate to limit them to 1 to 2 hours. I mean, at that age, I'm strict.
And he still likes to go outside, so I'm like, I get off, and so he'll go outside and play.
Right,
So I know
that's
he's
good.
plenty of that too. but
Going
it's like-
outside, Legos are great for kids who are really into games, so they can build stuff, or erector sets. They like that stuff because they can put things together. Craft projects, I know boys usually don't like craft, they like cool ones.
Yeah.
Like my son made his own moccasins, he thought that was pretty cool, you know, or leather works, stuff like that. They'll get into that, but you've gotta be the one that says, I mean, I see these parents doing all sorts of stuff, but then again, a lot of them don't eat with their kids, they don't cook. I knew a parent that didn't know how to cook. I mean, never cooked a meal. So, I mean, there are all different kinds of people. But there are some people who are working and they're a single parent, and they don't have much choice, so they can't be there regularly. You've got to raise your kid for your values. And don't worry about the other ones. I mean, he's probably going to tell you he hates you.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot. I hate you. Good, I'm doing my
You
job.
have so many rules, so you're like, you have
Yes.
so many rules.
I do. I have plenty. But what are you gonna do? I mean, you've got to do what you think is best. Can't worry about the other ones. If they say, their mom lets us do this, you can say, well, I'm your mom, and I'm not going. Don't reason. Yes.
Okay, what about like activities like the dance class?
I think you can because
So is it like overstimulating if they're doing it for several hours?
dance. Well, the good thing about dance classes is physical exercise.
Right.
I think anything physical is good. Even if it's too much. What kind of dance is this you fit in? Huh? Yeah, but when they practice, they don't have all that. That's just for competition, right? Black lights and everything. No, I think it's great for kids to dance.
Yeah.
I think any physical
We
activity,
have one kid that is, and she probably doesn't get into
well, that's good. Keep
And
them
so,
busy.
then on the week, and then we have the other kid that we're trying to keep off of it, and so it's like, well, it's just,
Yeah, you guys, let me just wrap up really quick. It's 7:30, so I'm gonna say thank you all for coming, and thank you, Dr. Deka. There's materials on the back of the table, and I've got certificates if you need verification for your attendance, and Dr. Deka would be happy to stay and answer any more questions.
I'm actually gonna, like,